Okay, someone asked, can I do a general platform and movement lesson to cover some unrealistic physics applications that would be useful in games, e.g. moving in water, wall jumps, variable jump heights, etc. Yes, I can. Let's do it. The first thing I did that's different to maybe what you might do is I use Rewired. You can also use Unity's new input manager. So the first thing I've done is I've stuck a thing down that's got a thing on it called physics controller and nothing else. And I'll debug.log to make sure it's working. I'm going to put a rigid body on it. And we're going to get rid of all of those properties. Oh, right, yeah. Sorry. There we go. Right. So I'll put our character controller down. I've got an input manager which is using Rewired. Though of course you can use the new Unity input system, or you can use the old one if you really want, but I'd suggest you use one of those two so you can use any controller. I've stuck a rigid body on this, got rid of all of the things apart from mass. Okay. I put it on continuous because we want that. I'm going to freeze the rotation because we don't want it turning. Okay. No, maybe it just wasn't recording. That's weird. Okay, well anyway. Now I'm going to add a wall on the bottom. We're going to add a box collider to this. Although I suggest you use line colliders in real life. We're going to add a box collider to that. Now let's start getting physics out of this thing. So the first thing we want is we need our rigid body, and we're going to not use start, we're going to use awake. R equals get component rigid body. There we go. So now we have our rigid body R. First thing of all, we want gravity. So let's add a variable G. And then we're going to go r.add force G times r.mass, because it's mg down times down. Okay. And then we're going to apply that. So we apply gravity. Now, here's our x. We don't really care about y, but we can start adding a force to the player to make them run around. So let's make public float movement force. Okay, and then let's just do player dot r dot add force x times movement force times vector 3 dot right. Right, so this is going to take our thing. If it's positive, it's going to move us right. If it's negative, it's going to move us left. Times it by the movement force. Okay, and in fact, we'll times by mass as well. Right. Now what we can do is we can also normalize, well, not normalize this, but do this, right? We're going to divide it by that. We're going to clamp it. Right. Which way around is clamp? Is it like that? Yeah. So we're going to clamp the value between -1 and 1, and then we're going to divide it by 0.9. That way we don't have dead zone issues. So now, okay, and let's make a drag function as well real quick, because that gives us all of our. In fact, we'll make all of the main functions, right? Void jump, right? And jump. What happens for a jump function is we need a down. Okay, so if and we need to read whether it goes down in input. Actually, we don't really need to do that. We can just do it here. We can say if float. I mean bool a down equals input manager dot get button a. Okay. And what was this? This is a down. Well, we'll call a now down. If let's call it a was down. A was down is whether it was down at the end of the last frame. So we do it at the bottom. Okay, so if A is now down, and A wasn't down, or actually we can just do that, right. If A is now down, then we're going to be handling jumping, okay? If A wasn't down, then that's where we do a jump, right? We can do like void burst jump. Okay, so that's the initial burst of jump that you get, because then we're going to keep jumping more in a minute. So if you're now pressing A and you weren't pressing A before, then we jump, right? Then we probably need, we'll make a bool called A held, or A released. Right, and we'll say A released is not true. It's false, right? Because as soon as you're pressing it, it's not released. Now we'll say if A is not down, then, you know, A released is true. Okay, right, so what else have we got? I normally do a bool called apex reached to check whether you've hit the top of your jump. I'm gonna add a public float initial jump burst, public float jump strength, or initial jump strength, let's call it. Okay, we need a bool that you're grounded. Okay, so void on collision enter. You know, can we call that hit? This is the wrong type. There we go. Right, so when you enter a surface, we check the normals and check that the y is greater than 0.9f or something like that. Cool. So now, why is it not like that? Oh, it's enter 2D. That's why. Alright. We check if the normal is greater than y. And 0.9, I've just said. And if it is, then we're grounded. Cool. Now, wall jumps. We'll do wall jumps in a minute. But for now, we need a burst jump. So in burst jump, we're going to want to do r.add force vector3.up times r.mass times jump strength. Base jump strength. Right. It doesn't like the order I've done that in. It thinks I should do this there. But whatever. Right, so we've got horizontal movement, we've got gravity, we've not got drag, we need to do drag at the end. So we're going to add a public float x drag, public float y drag. Cool. So this is going to look like, okay, so, well, one thing you can do is just do r.velocity times equals 0.9, right? But if we want moving platforms, you know, then maybe we don't want that. So what I'm gonna do is, okay, I'm gonna make a new vector2 called velocity mod. For now, I'm just returning 0. But the good thing about this is it allows us to use moving platforms. So when we stand on something, we can tell it. This is essentially the velocity of the thing I'm standing on, because we're going to drag towards that. So we do vector2 vm is velmod, right? And then we'll do. Oh, sorry, you're right. Thank you very much. Alright. So our velocity plus equals new vector term. Right. And then we'll do velocity mod dot. Okay. So why did I do that? New vector 2. We'll do x is going to be the velocity mod dot x minus transformed up. No, sorry, r velocity dot x. So if it's 0, then it's just going to go towards 0 times time.fix dot time times x drag. Okay, and then we're going to do the same for y. I hope this all works. Well, I mean, that is a lerp, isn't it? Well, the thing is, I know it's going to use the time properly. I know it's going to... I mean, yeah, you could just use lerp. I prefer, like, I don't like using mathsy functions if I don't know, like, if I can't plainly see what's going on. Here I know exactly what's happening, right? So, I don't really use lerps. But, yeah, they essentially do the same thing. Okay, so then we need a jump function. Right. There's one other thing I want to do, really. I want to do on collision stay. And we'll abs this. So we'll get the absolute value of the normal of x to check where. Okay, so if the absolute value of x is more than 0.9, that means we're either hitting an object on the left or on the right. Okay, so at this point we know that we're like on a wall. So I'm gonna make a new bool called sliding. Okay. Well, actually, that's probably a bad idea to do it there. I know what we can do. On exit. Okay, so yeah, we also need on collision exit 2D. It used to be that you could grab normals off this, but you can't anymore. So we'll just say that grounded is false, which is going to make problems for us, but whatever, and sliding is false. Cool. Right, so that's most of everything except the jump function. So, okay, what I would do in this thing, and let me actually, I'm going to consult my other code here because I don't want to make a mistake and waste all the time. Let me... Okay, right. So, we'll call it jump sustain, actually. Okay, so in here, we're going to say that if we're not grounded for a start, because otherwise you shouldn't be doing it, and if you've not reached your apex, okay, and if you haven't released A. So those are the 3 conditions of adding a jump. You're not grounded, you haven't reached the peak of your jump yet, and you haven't released the A button. Right? So, we also need, so when we jump, we need to set apex reached equals, in fact, this should all be in a function called dground. Okay. So we've got grounded is false, apex reached is false. Cool, and you can also use this, you know, you might not jump off the ground, you might walk off the ground, so then you would deground. There is actually some nuance here. There'll be a bug made, because you really want to do this in on collision stay, but that creates other bugs. But you figure them out. I can't be bothered doing it right now, but... So, jump sustain, right, at this point, okay, let's imagine we have, okay, I've got too many of them open. Let's do this. Right. Okay. So I did show you how to do a logarithmic jump, although we didn't do much of it, but I used it in the elevator lesson as well. I don't know if you noticed that. You can tweak those values and it will work. But what I'm instead going to do is let's think about cosine, right? Right, so cosine, it starts here, and it goes down to here, right? And then it keeps going. Now, you can imagine here, this isn't what we might want to add for a jump function, right? We want to add, basically, this, like, we want to add this chunk of the cos wave to our player. So initially we get this large amount of jumping, and then at the end we're not getting a significant amount of jumping. But we don't want any of this negative stuff, right? We don't want it, the longer you hold A, it's going to push you downwards, right? We only want it upwards. So we basically want the first pi over 2 of cos. Right? Does that make sense to anyone? So, yeah, what we're going to do is we're going to make a float cos factor equals math.cos, and then I'm just going to start counting. So let's make like a int a counter. Okay, and we'll set it to 0 when we start jumping. So when grounded, well, when we start jumping, so initial jump, burst jump, wherever it is, burst jump. Okay, a counter is 0. And then every single frame, we're going to go a counter plus plus, so we're going to add 1 to it, and then we're going to times that by, in fact, I called it cos factor, but let's be clearer on this. Did I make a cos factor? No, I didn't really make one. I made a jump strength. Public float, we'll call it like jump force angular frequency. Alright, then we'll times it by that. Okay, and now we'll say if the cos factor is greater than 0, so if this thing we return is bigger than here, right, so if it, essentially if it's within the first 90 degrees, then we're going to add it on. Okay. The r dot velocity plus equals new vector 2, 0, and then we're going to have our jump strength times by the cos factor. Okay. Otherwise, your apex is reached. And if your apex is reached, then it'll stop running this function. So we don't have to worry about, you know, obviously at some point it's going to go, we get the cos wave, then it goes down, and then it comes up again. So if I didn't do the apex reach thing, then, you know, it would ignore that section and then start adding again here, which we really don't want. So this just protects against that. Okay, let's see if that compiles. Okay, right, cool, it compiled. So let's start doing it. We're going to start tweaking values in the editor. Okay, so let's add some G and see if it does anything. Yep, it's working. Right, let's just add like 21G. Let's move him. Boom. Let's do 20 times 9.81. Boom. Boom. Okay. I like really high gravities in video games because, like, you know, that's 20 times our Earth gravity, but, you know, it's still not that, it's not that fast of a drop. Now let's check the drags work and let's put it at 1 and we should see that we're not fault. Okay, wait, sorry, let me make it like 300. That's interesting. Okay, let's make it 1.5. Is drag working? First of all, we're definitely calling drag right. Let's see. Oh, sorry, that's bad. We don't want to do that. So yeah, let's do 9.81 times 20 again. Maybe this will be a lot bigger now. Boom. No, that's okay. Right. Let's... Is the drag doing anything? Maybe 300 is too much, but I don't understand why it would. Okay, yeah, 300 was just too much apparently. It like overloaded oil chroma. But you can see here now, you know, this is dragging. Let's add some let's add some movement force. This is gonna have to be large as well. Let's make that 200. Okay, there we go. Right. So, so we definitely need some X drag. Oh, I've just noticed as well, we've got friction, which we don't want. Right, so let's add frictionless, no coefficient restitution. And now when I press left and right, you should, yeah, look at that. Right, if I don't oppose it because of Newton's first law, you keep flying forever. So we need to add some X drag. There we go. So next thing you want to do is like balance these off each other. I actually don't mind that. That feels decent. Maybe it's a bit too slippy. So we'll add like a bit more X drag. That feels fine to me. So I'm going to save that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy the component, turn off the game, and then paste the component so I get my values. Then, by the way, let me just move this camera to... There we go. That's better. Let's make some interesting background. Okay. Right. I don't want to see that. Right. So clearly we're falling too slow right now. So we're going to put the Y drag down again. Right. So now we need some initial jump strength. So let's add some. Can I get rid of this, by the way, so I can actually see this on? Okay, so the initial jump strength is like that. Okay, and then we'll add some actual jump strength as well. Oh, and we need some angular frequency to it. Although I don't know what value that should be. I'm getting nothing right now. So let's have a look at this. Falling, falling, boom. Okay, now when in situations like this, in the top you can go on here and put debug view, and then we'll be able to see all our variables. I'm also going to move this up to the top. Right. So we'll be able to see whether it's grounded, we'll be able to see if A is down. So A is released, it is grounded. And when I'm pressing A, it's switching A was down and it's degrounded me. Although yeah, the A counter isn't counting up, but I'm not in the air. So it only counts up in the air. So let's say, wait, I've clearly not put any strength here. Let me do this again. And I don't know, we'll call that 1. I think what was happening was I got degrounded as soon as I pressed A, and then I wasn't regrounding because I didn't actually leave the ground. Okay, right, so let's put 2,000 in this. Let's just put a ton of jump force on and see if that's the problem. Oh, you know what? Okay, I've got it. I know what's the problem. We're not actually calling A sustain anywhere, are we? We got burst jump. If A is down, then we should do... Is it not called A sustain? Jump sustain. Okay, that should fix it. We'll see what happens. That drag is way too much. Okay, that was interesting. It was really interesting how I flew in the air and then immediately went down again. Which I can't comprehend why that would happen. Let me just go into normal mode again. So we got gravity 196, jump strength 10, Y drag 10, initial jump strength. Let's make it something more useful. Wait, let's put 2,000, right? We just want to get age. Oh, there we go. Okay, so we have jumping, right? Now let's increase the... Well, Right, let's see what happens if we increase the angular frequency. Right, and now let's see what happens when we decrease it. If we decrease it, it's going to last for longer, right? Because we've got a lower frequency, so the jump's lasting longer. If we increase it, so if we make it like 2, then you see it doesn't last as long. So then you want to tweak that. I like it slow. Okay, I also like a bit more jump strength on my jumps. And a bit less initial jump strength. Oop. So you see now I've got small jumps, big jumps, ones as big as your head. I also don't like how much Y drag there is, I'd rather have less of that. I still want even less Y drag. The problem is then you know, if you lower the drag, you got to lower the jump strength, otherwise you're going to jump ridiculously. Also, right now, I can jump as many times as I want. Which you may want, you may not want. Okay, so right now this is feeling decent to me, right? In fact, you know what? I'll give myself a bit more movement force, because then I'll be able to, like, it'll be easier to, like, go off things. Actually, I really don't like that. I mean, this is most of physics, right? It's just tweaking values like this. But to be honest, right, considering we've not really spent much time on that, that feels pretty good. And you know, you can use it on the keyboard as well with WASD, and it feels fine on the keyboard. Right. In fact, if you just want to see what my input manager does, because I'm not using Unity input, I'll show you the functions I'm using. I'm using getAccess, which just does getAccess raw, and I'm doing getButton, which just does getButton, and it uses. Say that again. Did I? Yeah. Okay, we're gonna save scene just in case everything crashes. Scenes, platformer. Okay, so now, I've not done the check for double jumps and stuff. We can do that in a minute if you want. But in the meantime, what I'm gonna do is make a wall, right? And we want wall jumps, right? So, what we're gonna do, first of all, okay. Where's the physics controller? Okay. So we've got a drag function, right? Here, we have this function called sliding. Let's go into our drag function and say that this Y drag, we can do, I don't know if you know how ternaries work, but okay, I'll just explain something really quick for anyone who doesn't know code that well. If I say bool, okay, int value equals grounded 1, otherwise 0, then what that means is we've got a value, and if grounded is set to true, then the value is 1, otherwise it's 0. This is really useful. I use it all the time because it just lets me, you know, not have to write lots of if statements. I can just do it here. So we're gonna go times sliding. Well, if we're sliding, then we're gonna increase the drag. Right. Otherwise, so, you know, if we're sliding, we're gonna double the drag force. Otherwise, not. So let's see if that works. I probably shouldn't. Okay, wait. What we're gonna do is we're gonna make a public float slide drag. Right, and then here instead of this, we're going to say times sliding, slide drag, otherwise Y drag. Can I move this back a sec as well? Right, there we go. So now, when you go down a wall, you're going to slide. Right, so we're going to, let's make this like 40, this slide drag. So we're going to feel the effect of the wall. So we're falling, there we go. So one other thing you might want to do is, you might want to do this based on your input. So you might want it so that if the player is pushing against the wall, they're going to slide slower than if they're just like holding against the wall. But, you know. Okay. So one other thing is, we only want to do this stuff if you're grounded. Sorry. Now, what I normally do is I do something called grace deground, right? So now we can't jump multiple times in the air, that's good. That's what we want. Right, but the problem is, right, sometimes they press A just a little too late. So this is what can make bugs for you. But what I normally do is, I do it so that when you deground, instead of degrounding immediately, I do it like this. Okay, we're gonna call that deground immediate. Immediate deground. And then we're gonna make one called deground with grace. Okay? Then we're gonna have an IE numerator called grace deground. And then we're gonna go public float grace period. And we're gonna go, this starts, this, we'll do a coroutine called DG, right? We'll go DG equals start coroutine grace deground. And we'll also say if DG is not a null, then we're gonna kill it. And we also need to do that in ground. Right, because if you reground yourself, you don't want it to deground you, if you see what I mean. Right, so if you do an immediate deground, if you hit the ground, then it should immediately stop doing this grace period. So we're gonna yield return you, wait for seconds, grace period, and then we're gonna immediate deground. Cool. So now in here, when we walk off a ledge, okay, so on collision exit, we're gonna deground with grace. What I normally would do is, I'd normally check the Y, but they got rid of that. Stupidly, they got rid of the normal of the exit collision. So my solution to this is that in on collision stay, we'll call on collision enter, and that way we're gonna okay, sorry, we need a ground function. And we're also going to stop that coroutine if DG is null. Not equals null. Did I put not equals null or equals null? Okay, go on. Right, so we're going to ground you here. So when you hit stuff. Okay, so now I should be able to theoretically jump in the air. So let me put it on 2 seconds just for demonstration purposes. So now, let's see if jumping's still working. Right, now we'll jump off the edge and then, oh, it didn't work. That's interesting. I set a 2-second grace period. Okay, what's gone wrong here? Let's look at it. So, on collision exit, we've degrounded with grace, which means we start this coroutine to deground. Then we wait for the grace, On collision exit, grounded is. Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah, there we go. That's exactly right. This is why I need you people around when I'm. See that? Now I can run off the edge and then jump, which players really appreciate. Now we've left it too long because one, you know, we can jump like really far in the air. So, you know, if you do it like 0.2 seconds, 0.1 seconds, something like that, that just gives the player a reason to not blame you for their own errors. So, like, you know, they've got plenty of time there to run off the edge and jump in midair, so they can't really complain if they miss their jump. Okay, so now if we do this, can I just quickly add a thing that's going to pan? We're going to add a thing called camera pan. Okay, fixed up there. Oi, oi, Vim! Okay, fixed up there. Yeah, I mean, we can just get the player. So what's the player called? Physics controller, public transform player. Okay. Well, we can grab it and start. We can just say player equals find object of type of physics controller as physics controller. Then we're gonna wrap that whole thing around. Oi, Vim dot transform. Cool, and then we can say that transform dot position plus equals player dot position minus transform dot position times by we'll do public float lerp speed equals 0.05 times lerp speed. Okay. So now the camera's gonna lerp towards me. Now what I'd normally do is I'd all whoa oh sorry I forgot. It needs to do plus new vector 3. Or actually, can we just do vector 3 depth vector equals new vector 3 0 0 minus 10, because that's going to keep the camera behind the player. Okay, see that works. Right. Wait, why is that happening? That's interesting. I guess something's going weird with the cos wave. Or maybe it's the Grace D ground, because now, you know, that wasn't happening before. It must be that it's, that I'm Grace D grounding and then it's happening again, which is annoying. So, you know what, I'm going to get rid of the Grace, because it's stupid. But you can do that in your own time. Right, so we'll just say ground is true. Why are we now... What? Did anyone see why this would be happening? That suddenly the... Sometimes it's just like that, you know? Game dev is just like that. Stuff just stops working and you have no idea why it's not working. Well... is there anywhere we gray screen it? No, we don't. Okay, I don't know why that's happening. Right. We'll just quick... Oh, when I walk off a ledge? Well, I mean, the apex reach is set to false immediately when you jump. Right, so like, yeah, and then I call burst jump. Oh, wait. Is it meant to be in here? Maybe that was it? I don't know. Oh, sorry. Yeah. I don't know if that will be it. I think there's something weird at play. Can I just increase the jump strength a sec? Okay, it just feels like something happened. I don't know, almost as if... I honestly have no idea what happened. Okay, either way, we've got that. Right? Whoa! Stuff's happening. Okay, so specifically you asked general platformer stuff. How do I do moving in water and wall jumps? Well, moving in water is easy. All you need is... This is our water. Look, it's blue. Right? And then... Let's put it behind. We make it a trigger. And then we can just say, like... Well, for now, just to make it really simple, we'll do on trigger, enter... Collider 2D water, and we'll say we're just all the triggers are going to be water for now, so we won't do a check. We'll just say bool in water. Okay, in water is true, and then on exit. Oh my god. Wait, stop that. In water is false. And if you're in water, then we can just we can have a massive public float water drag factor. Okay, I mean we could just set it to that actually, you know. Well, no, that's stupid. Okay, whatever. Right, we'll go in the drag, and we'll go x drag times water drag factor 1 oh sorry, in water 1, otherwise, you know, water drag factor. And I know you may mean in 3D, like how do we swim around in 3D? So that's why next lesson we're going to do 3D character controllers. Why is it not like that? Okay, just that. And you know, we could add buoyancy as well, which is just spring constant, it's just KX, right? Whoa! What is going on? Now we got no drag. Oh, sorry, it's because this water counter. Okay. If you're in water, oh sorry, if you're not in water. Okay. And then yeah, let's do water drag factors 10. So now when we fall in the water, it should slow us down. Like, whoa, what was that? Maybe that's too much. That was weird. This is really weird. Physics, it just be like that sometimes, you know. It's just the nature of life. Okay, there we go. You know, now we're falling and it feels watery. Let's just do that again. Okay. In fact, we probably only want it on X. On Y, sorry. Because the player still wants to move around. They don't want to lose their movability, right? And we should really ground you. Right, and then you could, you know, you could add jumps like Mario, so you could add a jumping function. One final thing before I go, because I told you I'd do wall jumps, is let's say on collision 2D, right, your X is great, your, we'll say the X normal is that, right? If your X normal, the abs of it is not than more than 0.9, then we can set, we can have some int called wall jump ready, right? And we can say wall jump ready equals X normal is greater than 1, sorry, greater than 0, 1, otherwise minus 1. Right, and then on exit, oh, sorry, else wall jump ready is false, is 0. Or you could do this on a grace as well, you know, you could grace this as well, you could do this whole function in a timed thing. Else, oh sorry, on collision exit, we want to do wall jump ready is false. Oh sorry, 0. Okay, so now what we can do is, when you press A, we can say that if you're grounded, that happens, else, well, first of all, okay, yeah, if you're grounded, it should always do that. But if not, if wall jump ready is not 0, then we can do the same thing, right? We can do A released is false, immediate deground, and this time we can call it wall jump, right? So then in the burst jump, we're basically gonna clone this, except we're probably gonna do, you know, you can do public float wall jump y strength, public float wall jump x strength, we'll say factor. Right. So now what we can do is, instead of adding so much on the y on the x, and you could do this in sustain as well, but whatever, right? Wall jump ready, d wall jump. Come on. Why isn't it like that? I added a function called wall jump. Yeah, why isn't it like that? Oh, it doesn't exist. What? But oh right, that's fine. Right, so this time, yeah, we're gonna add a counter. Although you might want to do a separate counter, you know, for wall jumps. You might want to treat it as an entirely new behavior. But we can add force instead of adding up. Well, we can just do two things. We can do this times by the wall jump y strength factor, and then we can also do wall jump ready times wall jump x strength. Now I might have to, that might be negative. I don't know right now. Sorry, and we need all of that times vector 3 dot right. Okay. It may be left. I think it's right. Well, I've not really thought about it, so maybe it's totally not that. So we've got the up strength, which may be weaker than a normal jump. And then we got the y. And then that's pretty much it, right? Like, oh, also, I think that it should set your velocity to 0. Actually, no. Well, it depends what you want, because maybe you want it that if you started sliding down, you don't want them to have the downward velocity added to their jump. But maybe you do. You know, maybe you do. You know, if they're slipping faster down, then they're gonna get less of a jump. So now we need wall jump y factor, let's say 0.6. Wall jump strength is going to be the initial jump strength, so, I don't know, let's say like 1400, see what happens. It may be the wrong direction, but we'll find out. Oh my god, why is it so annoying? Okay. I really don't. I don't know why it's being so rubbish. Let's put the Y drag down. Okay, that's fine. We'll copy that. Oh, I didn't paste. Okay. Oh, well, we got our wall jump down. But it seemed like it grounded us first, so it seems like we didn't get the D ground. But you see, then we get some kind of wall jump. But I don't like how the factor is, so let's just do it. There we go. So now, you know, we need to work on it a bit. I don't know why we're grounding. It should. Oh, this should deground you. But I don't know. Also, well, we're not becoming degrounded in the first place. I don't know why. On collision hit. That is ground too. Alright. Whoa! What? You know, something's gone weird. Why? Why is this happening? Yeah, but... Yeah, we must have been running... Yeah. Okay, well, I don't like these new... Yeah, and something must have gone wrong somewhere, you know. You know how it is. But I don't know how. Okay, that'll do. I don't like how it feels, but that'll do. Let's see what happens. Let's see if this works now. There we go. You know, it looks stupid actually, because... Let's make that 2. Let's make it 1. Okay, clearly what needs to happen here is the A sustain, you know, the A sustain burst is the thing that's making this weird. You probably need its own, or it definitely needs some kind of balancing, because like that looks stupid. But in principle here, all the variables here can be tweaked, and then like, and you can make this feel good even though it doesn't feel good right now. But that's just a case of, you know, I don't have time during a lecture to tweak values, but, you know, ideally, that would look less like that. But, and then we can fall down here, and then, you know, we're slow in the water. So there you go, you get the principles of it. If you want it to be better, then, you know, code it. Tweak it. But that is how you make a character controller in an hour. And I'm sorry we ran over. But why? I don't know. It's like 50 minutes or something, and we made a full character controller. That's pretty cool. Yeah. Any questions? Right. Right. Yeah. I mean, the conceptual difference is that drag. Okay. So friction depends on how much you're pushing down on your surface. So, for instance, if I'm carrying a lot of weight on me and I start walking, then I'm going to experience a lot more friction. You know, if you try and drag something along the floor, it's really hard. Whereas even a heavy thing, when it faces drag, will that be a difference? Does it depend on mass? Well, it's not proportional to the mass, but it's because it's a force, then it will kind of do. Well, okay, so you're kind of right, and that's why I don't use friction in my games. And the reason I don't use friction is because, say you're a speedrunner, you don't want to be moving faster in the air than you are in the ground. So I always just turn friction off, because then you move the same speed through the air and the ground. And I just use X friction. Sorry, X drag. There is one example, again, like, we did a friction lesson, and it is the... No, not that one, 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 not that one. Oh, this is a friction lesson one, but that's... There's one with there's one with a boulder. What is going on here? I can't see anything in this one. What's lesson 25? Oh, that's water, that's all. Lesson 25, lesson 24.1, lesson 24. Which one was this? The spinning camera. 20, that's an oscillator. 19, oscillator. 17. What's this? Is this sine waves? Oh, that's... Yeah, but that was this one, you remember, where you can, Oh, that's another difference between friction and drag. Well, that's stupid. Remember this. Friction won't activate below a certain point, whereas drag will always activate. So, like, you know, this is friction physically stopping you from moving, whereas drag wouldn't. Drag wouldn't completely stop you from moving, it would just slow you down. Whereas this friction will completely counteract your force until you pass the coefficient of static friction. And then, so that's one big difference with friction. The other one, okay, I can just, you know what, we just make a new one. You just put a thing called, put this down. Torque. Okay, right. Rigid body. Gravity. Angular drag off. This off. Mass. Circle collider. Box collider. Oh, also, can we add, let me add something to this so you can actually see it, because it's symmetrical, so you're not going to notice it. So we'll make a little bob here. Brrr. 10. Stick that there. Stick that on there. Now you can see a spin. Right, you see how this is moving with traction? Well, if you turn off, if we put this frictionless, then now it won't move, because there's no traction. Because traction, the whole reason things roll is because of Newton's second law. So if you're applying, right now, this thing has no friction with the ground, so it's not applying a force to the ground, so it's not going to move, right? But if we add, you know, do that, then now there's friction when it spins, and when there's friction, that means you get a reverse force. So if you want boulders in your game or something, and you want them to actually move via torque, then you need friction on at least the boulder and the ground between each other. So that's one difference. I mean, also, they're slightly different, right? Because one's based on velocity, and one's based on the normal reaction force. So one's only based on how hard you're pushing down, one's based on how fast you're going. So there is a terminal velocity on force, because drag is based on your velocity. Eventually, your velocity will balance with your force, and you'll reach a terminal velocity. Whereas with friction, there's no terminal velocity. Like if you fall off a skyscraper and you push yourself against a skyscraper, you're just going to rip your skin off, right? You're not actually going to slow down. You're not going to lower your velocity enough to do anything. Like, you're not going to reach a terminal velocity for friction. So there's loads of small versions of it. But, you know, you're right in that as a game developer, does that distinction matter to you in 99% of circumstances? No, it doesn't. But there are little differences. So the whole fact of, okay, because it rarely matters, that's why I just use drag all the time and make everything frictionless. But in the few cases where you want a boulder or something, you need to be thinking of that. There are uses for it. Some people like friction. I don't care about it. Alright, that answer your question?